everyone. I'm very aware of the fact I'm one of the few things standing between us and lunch, so I promise I will keep us moving and keep us on track towards that. But really excited to tell you a little bit about our partnership with Netflix. So I'd be curious, with just a show of hands, how many of you either have read the Electric State graphic novel or watched the movie or heard about the movie at least? So pretty good showing in this room. The Hormel team was approached on this. This was not something we sought out. And I guess just a little bit of background for those of you who aren't familiar with it. So The Electric State was a graphic novel. And Agbo, who, if you're familiar with the Russo brothers, they've done a lot of the big Avengers movies and some other action movies. Agbo is their production studio. And they were working on bringing a version to life for Netflix. And they approached us because they wanted Mr. Peanut to be a supporting character in this movie. Now, Mr. Peanut is not in the graphic novel. This was something that the writers really wanted to do, but if you're unfamiliar with it, The Electric State takes place in like an alternate 90s. So it's kind of a grungy 90s. In the movie, you see a lot of fun 90s kind of throwbacks clips, and Bill Clinton makes an appearance, and there's a great 90s soundtrack. But it's an alternate 90s because in this world, there has been an uprising. Robots have performed tasks for humans for years. They're sentient. They want rights. Of course, we as the humans do not want them to have rights. We want them to continue to deliver our mail and cut our hair. And so there's an uprising. So you can imagine, this was before I joined the brand team, but there's a little hesitancy when someone comes to you and says, hey, we want to take your beloved brand icon, and we want him to be the leader of the robots that rebel against humans. Like, are you cool with that? Obviously, there's a little bit of like, oh, I don't know, that's a little different than anything Mr. Peanut's done in his career before. But also, what a gift, right? How many brands have Netflix coming to them saying, we want your character to be a star in our movie? So, really exciting opportunity, and the writers of the script and the Netflix team and Agbo were really able to show the vision that they had for both the movie and for how Mr. Peanut was going to show up in it, and really sold us and convinced us that this could be a really great thing for our brand. So obviously, when we were thinking about how we wanted to partner with Netflix and what this would mean for us, there were a couple big things we were just keeping in the back of our mind. The first just being, like I mentioned, there's a little risk associated, right? We were not going to be in control of the movie. Obviously, we had the opportunity to, read the script and see some things, but at the end of the day, Mr. Peanut is the most valuable brand equity our brand has. When you talk to consumers, especially consumers who are 50, 60, 70, there is an emotional tie to Mr. Peanut. People feel strongly about him. He showed up in a lot of ways in their life when they were little. They remember him being at, family holidays when their grandma had nuts out. So, it's a blessing to work for a brand that kind of has that equity. And so, you have to be really careful when you weigh these opportunities of not leaning in the wrong direction. The other opportunity was, we could kind of stay small with it, right? We could grant Netflix or Agbo the rights to utilize Mr. Peanut and then kind of say, okay, let's see how that goes and kind of leave it there. But there was also an opportunity to lean in and really partner with Netflix and try to add some of our own storytelling to this message that was going to be going out to the world. And then something else we thought a lot about, especially on the brand team, was what else is in it for us? Like, obviously, this is an incredible moment in time, but Mr. Peanut's done a lot of incredible things over the course of his career, right? Is there a larger message that we can tell to consumers right now and kind of capitalize on this unique opportunity in time? So, as we started thinking through everything, we decided we did want to lean in, we did want to partner, and we ultimately decided we wanted to create a new spot that we could use in a campaign that would air as the Electric State started to air on Netflix. So this looks really simple when it's distilled on one page, right? You're like, yeah, this makes sense. You want to build brand equity. But this was a real challenge for us internally to align on this and decide this was the right path forward. Over the past several years, a lot of our campaigns are very product focused. If you go and look, we've had an On Nuts campaign, we've had different innovation campaigns. They're all very product centric, it's front and center, and it's very easy to track, when they're on, what kind of sales numbers we're looking for, the lift we're trying to measure. We knew this was going to be different. This was not tied around one specific product or a new launch, and this was truly about taking an opportunity to build brand equity. I know everyone in this room is very familiar with the fact that people would like to see good ROIs on anything you ever do in marketing, right? And we knew this was going to be a little harder. We weren't looking for necessarily an immediate sales impact. Instead, we thought, Mr. Peanut is not in pop culture organically that often, right? Like, this is really a time to strike when he's already getting in front of consumers. And like I mentioned, consumers that are older talk all their time about their emotional affinity for Mr. Peanut. We hear less of that from people who are 25. Like, they just did not grow up with him the same way. He wasn't in culture in the same way. And we knew this movie was going to be targeted at that audience who we still had the opportunity to nurture that affinity and that love for Mr. Peanut. So we decided to lean in and really have that as our overall goal, and focus kind of on that younger cohort of consumers. So we landed on this idea of peanut programming for our creative idea. There's a couple things we were kind of keeping in mind and why we decided on this. We worked with our partners, BBDO Midwest, to align on this creative idea, but ultimately, what we loved about it is both the brand version of Mr. Peanut and the robot version of Mr. Peanut from the movie show up in it. And that was something for us on the brand side. It was really important. We didn't want people to walk away from the movie thinking, okay, I guess Mr. Peanut's a robot now. Like, is that how he shows up in real life from here on out? So we wanted to do the best we can. You all know it's very hard when you have 30 seconds to tell the full story, but we wanted consumers to see both versions of Mr. Peanut and understand that Mr. Peanut's done a lot of things over the course of his history, and being a robot is just one of those things. So I'll go ahead and play the ad for everyone.
Green light, build the bot. Nuts. Grab some Planters nuts and watch Mr. Peanut in the electric state.
So very different asset from anything we had ever created before. But one of the fun things about partnering with Netflix on this is they have an incredible brand partnership team that this is what they do, right? They're the experts in it, and they were very involved in helping us make the creative and looking out, obviously, to ensure we were aligning with the electric state and everything that they were looking for. And so we had the opportunity to, have some of the talent from the film be in a spot. I don't know if you've seen a lot of other Planters commercials. We normally don't have Chris Pratt and Millie Bobby Brown, on the end card of our commercials. So it allowed for some really cool opportunities by working with that team. We did a full 360 campaign as this launched, and we were doing it kind of simultaneously as the Netflix team was marketing the film. So obviously the Netflix team, they were marketing the film overall. We were calling out Mr. Peanut, highlighting, grab some nuts and watch Mr. Peanut star in the electric state. And one thing I wanted to call out here was the thematic retail displays. We were really excited about the opportunity to, show up in retail in a big way with this amazing Netflix movie. And it was a little bit more challenging than I think we anticipated it would be. Like, our job is to execute in retail every day, right? This is something our sales team is good at. They do it all the time. But we didn't really think through how different the timelines are in entertainment compared to where they're at in retailers, and how NDAs complicate that timeline. It's very challenging to go into a retailer and trying to sell in this exciting movie-branded shipper or display when you can't really talk about what the movie is or who's in it or how big it's going to be. So I think for us, this was the first time we did anything like this on this scale. So it was really a great learning experience. But that would be something I would caution all of you. If you have an exciting opportunity like this, start thinking about how timelines look different in retail than they maybe do for the partner you're working with. We were still able to execute a branded display, so our header card got to be branded for the electric state. We just weren't able to actually implement necessarily like on pack like originally we had been hoping to do. Something with our media plan that was different about this, it was a great test and learn for us, was the Netflix ads. Obviously, this is still a pretty new way to campaign or to utilize ads. We had never utilized Netflix platform ads before, so we're waiting. Unfortunately, the timing of this did not work out well with the timing of all my reporting, so I can't share very many details on this, but we are really excited to just see how the audience on this platform looked different compared to other places that our ads showed up, and what we learned from partnering with Netflix. But we did become the single title sponsor for this film. We thought, again, very organic. Obviously, they're going to see robot version of Mr. Peanut as they watch the film. Let's make sure they're prepared to have some snack nuts before they get started on it. But this has all been fairly recent. So the Electric State launched on Netflix in the middle of March. So we are about only 2 months out from the launch of the movie. So we don't have a full recap here for you yet, but just a couple high-level things we've talked a lot about internally was the general experience of partnering with Netflix was excellent. Obviously, that team is incredible. They do stuff like this all the time. They're so knowledgeable. And I'm sure, some of you in this room are thinking, well, this is great, but I don't have a 100-year-old mascot with my brand. I'm not getting asked to, star in a film. We aren't either normally, this was a very one-off opportunity, but if you look at how Netflix has partnered with other people, they show up in a lot of different ways, right? It's not always, they're starring in a movie and it's as easy as that. There's a lot of creative ways they integrate brands and products. So I would just say, obviously, every experience is going to be different. There's a lot of companies outside of Netflix in entertainment who do partnerships, but we overall had a very great experience and felt very lucky to be working with that team. We're going to be tracking as we look, start getting our reporting back and kind of do some analyzing. We're really looking at that brand sentiment and equity piece. So we want to see, we're doing a brand lift study on this. We're really interested to see, did we talk to consumers in the way, initial testing suggested we were going to? Did it come through? Obviously, there's a lot of things you're trying to communicate when you explain, hey, it's Mr. Peanut, and it's starring in a movie, but this isn't a commercial for the movie. We understand that there was a lot going on in the ad, so we're really excited, but anecdotally, we're feeling really good about the job that this campaign played for us and how it helped us to start nurturing that love and affinity for Mr. Peanut in a new way. And then we started thinking a lot about, what's next. Obviously, we cannot control if we'll ever again get an opportunity like this, but there are a lot of other ways, we show up in culture, either being Mr. Peanut or Peanuts, salty snacks in general. Something that actually I think is a really easy example is, so Planters is owned by Hormel Foods. Another major Hormel Foods brand is Spam, if any of you are familiar. And there is a brand new Lilo and Stitch live-action movie coming out this month. And our Spam team actually worked with Disney on that to create limited edition Spam cans, and they came out with a new ad that had Stitch in it. But, Spam and Hawaii go together very well. It shows up, if you've ever visited Hawaii, you see Spam on a lot of menus there. And again, it really has an emotional connection with people who grew up or live in Hawaii. So that was an authentic way for Spam to show up and partner with Disney, even though Spam is obviously not a starring role in Lilo and Stitch. So I think the number one thing that we gained from this campaign was just the ability to start thinking about what are other ways in culture are we showing up, and how can we start to leverage those partnerships and show up in these new ways to really take advantage of it. But it was a great learning experience for us. We had a great time working with the Netflix team, and I'd love to answer any questions people have on it.
I love it when people set up the questions for me, and there's one right here on the other side of the room. Could not have planned this better myself. No.
Hi, Pamela Stevens with 3M. Curious on when Netflix approached you with the opportunity, did it already align with the timing that you guys were looking to be in market and reach that target audience that was younger, or was it an opportunity for you to go to your leadership and say, hey, this is something we can do to reach this audience, where you were going to have to do incremental budget?
Yeah, I think I wasn't on the brand team, but from my understanding of how it kind of worked is snack nuts, I would say, has always been a category that airs a little older if you look at the general consumer information for snack nuts. And so that's always been something for years the team has known, how do we get in front of those younger consumers who are either going to age into the brand at some point, or we're trying to pull it into the brand or category now. So it wasn't something necessarily that, fell perfectly into an existing campaign, but that's something that I think's been on our radar for years of, how do we target these consumers? And it just felt like a great opportunity to really build upon something that was already going to be in market anyway, if we approved this, and then to create our own campaign allowed us to talk specifically to who we wanted to talk to outside of just the movie audience. But it just happened to align perfectly with some of our goals.
As I make my way over there. Lanessa, what's next for Mr. Peanut?
Well, Mr. Peanut was very sad he couldn't be here today, but he was at the Sweets and Snacks convention in Indianapolis last week, so he had a long week. But I would say next for Mr. Peanut is this summer, our Nutmobile program turns 90. So he might be hitting the road with some of our peanutters, and a new, actually, bar nut mix dropped this week on in retailers and on Amazon. So Mr. Peanut's on that. So he's snacking on a lot of bar mix this week. Living the dream.
Hi, Mikey Mizrahi from Wreck-It. So my question is when it comes to these brands, comes to our brands that are so beloved and have so much history, that brand risk, I imagine, gets more complicated the more well-known and well-loved something is. How did you manage that conversation? I know it's a little bit before your time, but can you tell us a little bit around how the brand was able to take on that risk? Because I've always found that anytime we have something really interesting, the first answer you always get is, "What do you mean? That's crazy." The brand, right? We love this product too much.
Yeah, no, I would say, we were very protective of Mr. Peanut. Like I said, he's a gift for a marketer to have someone who's been around and is so iconic, so many people recognize him. It was scary, and obviously, we felt really good about this, but we were scared, Once you agree at a certain point, it's kind of out of your hands. I would say how we got comfortable with it is because of the support from Agbo and the writers. Some people on our brand team had the opportunity to meet with the writers in person. There's actually even some articles out there from this fall when they started doing their press junket talking about why they felt like it had to be Mr. Peanut. And the words they used to describe him really aligned with how we view him. They said he's the Atticus Finch of the robots. He is the Jimmy Carter of the robots. They really understood how we view Mr. Peanut, so we did. That's how we got comfortable with it. But I'm not going to lie to you that we were not extremely nervous for the fact that Mr. Peanut was going to be in a film. If you've seen the film, there's a scene where his robot hat gets ripped off his head, and you see essentially his robot brains, and that was pretty jarring for all of us. We're like, we are seeing too much of Mr. Peanut right now. I was not meant to see his wire brains, but we feel really good with how it landed, so it worked out for the best.
Hey there, Dana from Hip to Safe. So we're a full funnel media platform, and we try to do a lot of lifestyle and cultural integration in our content. So just kind of wondering, how do you guys what is your plan? I know you were approached by Netflix for this. What does that look like for you, just on every day, in terms of integrating in culture and keeping your brand relevant? And do you have a plan for that? What does that look like?
Yeah, we do. And I think this and how this ended up unfolding really gave us confirmation that that is the right path forward, and that we really do believe, Mr. Peanut can and deserves to show up in a lot of ways in culture. So I can't necessarily speak to all of the details that we have, but I will say this, I think, stimulated a lot of conversation and thought, and allowed us to set up a plan for, over the next 18 months, 2 years, that we're really excited to see some of the things that are next up for Mr. Peanut.
Lanessa, thank you so much.